Tom of New Hot Times, and today I want to do two things. First is to go over that alternate string pull-off again in a little more detail, show you how the right and left hand should be working in coordination with each other, and to tell you some other patterns you can do with that stroke. Second thing I'd like to do is go over briefly your left hand position on the neck, especially with a fretless banjo. And that'll prepare you for some things we're going to do in subsequent lessons. Before I get started, I'd like to thank Robert and Polly down at Glenn's Tattoos in Carborough, North Carolina. I was just down there. They hooked me up with this very cool Banjo Hangout t-shirt, and I really like it. Had a good time while I was down there, boys, and we'll see you again real soon. So, alternate string pull-off. The timing between the right and left hands is critical, especially as you prepare for the pull-off. You want to be setting down on the string with your left hand at the exact same time as you're performing the bump of the bumpaditty stroke with your right. And I'm going to show you how this works. If you stare at the star at the center of my fretboard and use your peripheral vision to watch both of my hands, you're going to see how they're working in concert with each other. So I'm going to play slowly. I'm going to play in an exaggerated way so you can really see the motion. Just keep your eye on the star and watch my hands out of your peripheral vision. So hopefully you're seeing that I'm setting down, in this case I'm using my middle finger. I'm setting down on the string I want to pull off, which is the first string, at the exact same time as I'm performing the bump of the bumpaditty with my right hand. So if you've been having trouble with the timing on that, look at how both of your hands are working in concert. You really want to be preparing for that pull off well in advance of actually performing it. Second thing I'd like to mention about this stroke is that you don't have to pull off the first string. You can pull off the second and third strings as well. And you'll get some nice ascending runs that way. So I'm going to show you how that works. I'm pulling off my second string and I'm doing a downstroke on my third and first strings. So I'll do it slowly. Now I'll speed it up so you can get an idea of what kind of exercise you should be doing to teach your muscles this stroke. You can also pull off the third string while striking the fourth and the second. Sounds like this slowly. And speed it up for an exercise. Then you can combine those two in an exercise, pulling off the second again. You just want to make sure that, again, your eighth notes are very even, and that when you're setting down on that string, especially if you're using a fretted banjo, you want to set down as softly as possible, because otherwise you're going to do a hammer-on by mistake and get some sounds that you don't want. Another thing I'd like to mention briefly is that this alternate string pull-off, this is not round peak banjo. It's an element of round peak banjo, and this is how I'm trying to frame these lessons. I'm trying to show you exercises that you can take home and train your muscles to be able to do these moves at will when you're playing music. You want to really pick and choose from these techniques that you're going to learn and use them in a deliberate and judicious way when you're playing music by yourself or with others. If you go back and listen to Tommy Jarrell, Fred Cockrum, or more recently Brad Leftwich, you're going to hear all of these different techniques employed, but you're also going to hear that they're employing them in very deliberate ways. They're making choices about the music. And you're going to learn by listening and by playing a lot when and where to make these choices. And you just want it to be a conscious effort on your part. You want to always be thinking about it. So really treat these techniques as exercises more than actual music, to train your muscles to be able to recall these moves and licks at will in a given tune. So with that out of the way, why don't we get into the left hand position on the back of the neck, which again seems like a given, but there's some stuff we're going to do down the road that this will come into play. So I used to hold the neck classical guitar style with thumb on the back of the neck with my fingers arched over the fretboard, working in a straight up and down motion like pistons in a car engine, which is nice for fretted banjo because it gives you plenty of clearance to be able to do four-fingered chords up the neck with ease. Well, with round peak, the problem is, especially if you're using a fretless banjo, this can sometimes make intonation difficult. I've at least found that I end up hunting more for the notes in this position. So I've changed my position to a fiddle grip, which is putting the neck of the banjo between the thumb and the forefinger as you would a fiddle. Your fingers naturally curl over the fretboard, and again, they still should be in a straight up and down, working in a straight up and down motion like pistons in a car engine. But in this way, the gaps between your fingers tend to follow the fret lines a little bit more closely. So, for example, once you find the right spot, my first finger naturally falls on the first fret of the second string. My third finger naturally falls on the second fret of the first string. And that's a partial C-shaped chord. And again, same thing with the D7. First finger falls on the first fret of the second string. Middle finger falls on the second fret of the third string. And so that shows you that all of those notes are really right there at your fingertips. You shouldn't have to be hunting down. It's really more of correct hand position. And once you're in that position, you shouldn't have to move your hand up and down the neck to find a lot of the notes that are in that first position area. They should... a nice set of notes right there for you. So work on your intonation a little bit. Practice those chords a little bit just so you get a feel for where the back of your hand needs to be on the neck. And then once you find that, you're locked in and ready to go for first position. There's also second position where you can slide up, which is nice in A for adding those high notes. You slide up, your thumb naturally runs into the fifth string peg and stops your hand. Your first finger is at the 5th fret position, directly across from the pip. That's your 5th fret on your first string, and your ring finger is at the set, naturally falls on the 7th fret of the first string. So that's a nice position to be able to get those nice A high notes. And you can always verify that you're in the right position by bouncing that the 5th fret position off your 5th string to verify that the note is correct. So spend a little time getting used to the idea that your position has everything to do with intonation on the neck. You shouldn't have to be trying to imagine frets on that fretless fretboard. You should really be using position. So also, the nice thing about the fiddle grip position is that it moves your fingernails, instead of being parallel to the strings like they are in the classical guitar position, it pivots them so that they're almost perpendicular to the strings, which is going to come into play in the next lesson, where I teach you how to roll up off the finger pads onto the nails of your left hand to get some really sweet singing slides. So that's another reason to use this fiddle grip, is it puts you in a good position to be able to use your nails to slide, and I often use my nails to actually fret the note to get a super clean, clear, precise sounding note. And we'll cover that in the next lesson. So I hope all is well, and I hope this is making sense. If it's not, please give me an email and let me know if I'm missing anything, or if you'd like to hear more about another topic within the round peak style. And we'll see you next time.